Murtz Jaffer here with the latest Big Brother Canada evictee and the seventh member of the jury, Renee Mior. Renee, why do you think Ty voted to evict you instead of Daniel?
Oh man, I do think there's an underlying relationship with Daniel and Ty throughout the game, maybe that helped sway him to keep him. However, Ty has always kind of had it out for me, either look at me as a target or someone who was disposable. So I think, I think he knew more mental comps were coming in. He got a bit spooked with the conversation with Anika, and he just ran with it.
It's no secret that you were close with Claudia and Daniel was close with Anika. How much power did that give to Ty, in your opinion?
I think the fact that he could split up one of the duos and potentially reposition himself in the house to have a really clear, straight path going into that finale, I think was his best asset, going with two duos, because the duos are going to look at each other naturally before Ty. And I think that worked out in his favor this week.
What did you make of the relationship between Claudia and Ty? And do you think Claudia did enough to campaign to him on your behalf?
I definitely don't think Claudia did a lot to campaign on my behalf. I think, it would have been nice to see her fight a little bit harder for me, but usually when the going gets tough, she's not really one to push for her alliance members. She wants to see them continue and go far and whatever, but her actions don't always match up to that. Their relationship as a whole, though, was a very crazy, rocky one. And I think a part of me, fan-wise, wanted to see the three of us move forward because the dynamic was so hilarious. It was the showmance and the bestie. So it's like, who would have got picked at the end? But for them, they could never get on the same page, even about their cereal, their toast, nothing. So I feel like game-wise, it would have been hard for Claudia to sway him. However, I feel like she could have fought more.
Ty used the veto last week, forcing Claudia to nominate Shania. This week, he voted against you. What do you make of his strategy?
I really think that I really think that Ty, a part of me really believes that he saw later into the game how when the girly pops did come into power for a little bit, he saw the strength in that in the team, and catching wind of things around the house. He did apparently allegedly say that he thought I was the thinker of that group. So just try to start to dismantle it, I think, was the best way for him to force people to actually play the game with him. And I think, so he went about it the girly pop way. And then when he saw maybe there could be a sway for me, or that I would maybe potentially pick Claudia at the end, he was like, she's got to go next.
You were nominated quite a few times this season. Why do you think the other house guests kept putting you up?
My insecure side coming into the house was saying because people viewed me as disposable, they couldn't see how I would bring value to the team and moving things forward. And then the other part later that came in was that people were actually trying to target me because of my gift of the gab, I like to call it. I've had to talk a lot in that house because of the positions I've been in. And just, even though I was up against bigger threats, I still was working my bootay off to show people my value as a player because I felt like I had to. And I feel like that showed a few more cards than I was willing to. And then when my HOH win came, I think people started looking at me differently as a player.
What was your best move in the game and what was your worst move in the game?
My best move was getting Hope to use the POV on himself. I think I was a big factor. I don't know if he was Hope's very much of a wild card in the game. However, I feel like in that moment, there was a point in the Circle K room with me, Johnny, and Hope, when we were kind of getting very emotional. I was telling him to use that POV because I knew Zach would be the back door on that, regardless if he was fully in on it or not. I think that was a huge part in getting him to actually use it. So I like to keep that notch on my belt. My worst move, I toggle with this one a bit. I think it maybe wasn't my best. However, I don't think it was my worst because of the circumstances, but obviously me putting Kuzi up, that was a huge hard one for me, not only just game-wise, but personally, because I respect her so much as a person and a player. I think she was the MVP of the season. I think she played the hell out of that game. But the information she gave to me came so much later, and it came after I put her up on the block. And I knew that once I started that move, I had to finish it because then I wouldn't be getting out a player that I wanted. So that, I wish the information came earlier so that I would have reconsidered, maybe more pushing Daniel up, because leaving Daniel and Anika ended up biting my game in Butte. But I think with the circumstances and the information I was given at the time, I didn't really have too much of a choice, I felt like.
What makes Ty so difficult to beat in competitions?
Have you seen the man? He's just like, he's built like a little like action figure doll. Like I went into I knew he was going to be a tough one to beat from the first time we went into the slap competition. I went in there and I was like, I'm going to beat this guy. And he floored everybody on that competition. And then he continued to show how athletic he is. And he's just very, very agile. He goes in there with the mindset of I will win and I can only win. And he pulls out every single time. And I think just his mindset and his ability to connect his actions with that and actually pull out wins when he's in hot water is incredible.
If Ty did not win the veto this week, do you think Anika would have targeted him?
No, I think Anika is really under the impression that she can trust Ty. He's very much of I'm an honest guy, I play an honest game. And so if he was telling her behind the scenes, you know, we can continue on together, or I wouldn't use the veto or things like that, because he used the veto on her twice this season, I feel like she feels that kind of indebtedness towards him. So I think she wouldn't have gone after him. Her main target at the time was just Cece. She was fixated on Cece.
You have obviously been isolated from the rest of the world for quite a while. What's the one thing you are the most curious about in terms of what is happening in the outside world?
Oh, I'm very, very curious. My nosy fan side wants to see how people have perceived my game this season. I know it's that maybe shouldn't be the first thing I want to see. Obviously, my family first and foremost. I want to see what's going on with them. I want to make sure they're all happy, healthy, and safe. But apart from that, the actual season, how it played out, how I was portrayed as a character, my narrative, and I'm very curious to see how people responded to that.
You are now a member of the jury. What will you be looking for in a winner?
I want to see like the grit and resiliency that was sprinkled throughout our season, throughout the whole time. I want to see somebody that eats, slept, and breathed the game. I want to see how they moved when they were positioned well in the house, and how they moved when they weren't positioned well in the house, and how did you navigate around those obstacles. I want to see that all embodied in it. Another part of me wants to see the charisma of the season. We had so many loud and big personalities, and we had such amazing, phenomenal players take an L and walk out those doors. So how are you going to do them justice? How are you going to encapsulate their moves within your game? I don't think anybody standing at the end is solely there by themselves. I think they're a byproduct of a lot of the things that happened in the season, and I want to see that represented as wholeheartedly as possible.
All right, Renee, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks.